Hello, and welcome to the Justus Express. My name is Justus, and today we're going to be talking about the Miami Mall aliens. And if you haven't heard about it, I definitely invite you to go look at it for yourself. It's been viral all over the internet. Lots of people are talking about it. Very interesting to see. The biggest thing that I've heard about the Miami Mall aliens incident going around is that the Miami International Airport was closed and flights were grounded during this event. But actually, according to the Federal Aviation Association, flights were temporarily disrupted because of a computer issue in air traffic control. Now, here's the thing, that's actually not that far-fetched to believe, as technology isn't as reliable as we believe it to be, okay? It's especially the technology to which the public has access to, okay? The technology that we currently are using in our day-to-day lives, it isn't as reliable as we think it is a lot of the time. So, the airport being closed down due to an issue with the computer, it's not that far-fetched, especially in the day and age where everything is run by computers, okay? Another interesting fact about this is that according to Greg Chin, the spokesperson for the Miami International Airport, this issue occurred at the Air Route Traffic Control Center in Miami and started causing delays at around 1 p.m. He also went on to say that the issue was resolved by 6 p.m. Now, the Miami Mall aliens incident didn't occur until later that night at 10:30 p.m. Okay, so these, the likelihood that these two events are connected in any way is very minimal, okay, because they're on completely different timelines. And here's the thing, if it's difficult for you to believe that two major events like this can happen within a 24-hour period of time, I invite you to go back and research your history a little bit more, because history is a crazy place, okay? I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but World War I started because of a double assassination committed by a 19-year-old. Okay, so just because it sounds far-fetched doesn't mean it's not true, all right? What seemed really off-putting to many who saw this footage was the seeming correlation between the two events. But other than locational proximity, there really doesn't seem to be anything directly connecting these two events. But, of course, the internet has been abuzz talking about the possibility of aliens and portals and, these different things. But, the biggest evidence of this theory is an aerial helicopter video showing what looks to many to be a tall, shadowy figure walking within the perimeters of the police cruisers. But here's the thing about that. The mall was filled with hundreds of people at the time that this occurred, and you're telling me that not one single person has you're telling me that not one single person who fled the scene has clear video footage showing these abnormally tall shadow creatures? I mean, we also live, and this has occurred to me, we also live in a day and age where every cell phone, almost every cell phone, has built into its camera stabilizing technology. So the fact that all of the footage that we've seen of these so-called Miami aliens is blurry and shaky is suspicious in and of itself, okay? It doesn't support the validity of the story that aliens were roaming the mall. If aliens were roaming the mall, I feel like there would have been at least one clear shot of said aliens. It's also a misconception that it was just caused by 4 teenagers. So a lot of people saw how many police vehicles, all of the Miami cops were outside of the Bayside Marketplace, or the Miami Mall. Every single cop was there from Miami, and they were dealing with the situation. And a lot of people are going, why would that many cops respond to 4 teenagers? That's misinformation. Only 4 teenagers were arrested. More than 50 teenagers incited the chaos. Okay, the police thought that they were responding to a mass shooting and gang violence. That's what they thought they were responding to, and that's why there was such a heavy-handed response. According to NBC News in South Florida, police observed 10 to 15 juveniles actively assaulting a man in the area of Southeast 3rd Avenue and Southeast 2nd Street. After police announced through a marked police vehicle to stop fighting and to disperse, several teens fled the scene. Now, okay, if I had just read the story, okay, without any sort of video evidence or without any sort of pictures or without anything to back it up, I might think that maybe they were making it up to cover what was actually going on that night. But there is video footage of that exact thing happening. I mean, in the video, you can see multiple people, multiple individuals beating down and attacking one man who sits in a fetal position on the ground. And you see the police lights on the event as it's happening, and you hear the cop yell, "Hey, break it up," or whatever. And then they all flee, and the guy gets up. Luckily, he wasn't really very injured. He gets up, and he's like walking back to the car, like looking around, like, what was that? Okay, if that video didn't exist, then I would be doubting the story just like everyone else. But there are multiple videos of actual violence happening in this arena. So here's my question, right? I've spent my whole life vicariously studying human behavior. If there were extraterrestrials roaming the Miami Mall after emerging from a mysterious portal, why would people be fighting one another? If humans were really endangered by another life form, who on earth would not be running? Like, why would they sit there and be attacking each other and fighting each other? If people felt that they were truly in danger because of a foreign species, why would anyone in that event concern themselves with attacking a random individual that's just passing through? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't add up to me, unless it was a riot or some sort of gang activity, as has been suggested and stated by the Miami police force. If the Miami police are lying about what actually took place, then why is there footage of an innocent bystander being attacked by 10 plus people? Okay, if they're lying, then why does that footage exist? If what occurred at the Miami International Airport is connected to the Miami Mall incident, then why did it take place 4.5 hours beforehand? Okay, if hundreds of people, I'm just asking questions here, right? Just asking questions. These are the questions I was asking myself as I was watching the story unfold. If hundreds of people really did see this, then why is there no clear footage of these aliens? And beyond that, why isn't there even a consistent visual report as to what they looked like? Okay, if hundreds of people saw and ran away in absolute terror, why aren't hundreds of people taking to their social media accounts and telling the exact same story? Okay, the only people who seem to be talking about this are people who weren't even there. Okay. And in fact, to elaborate upon this, the original TikToker who suggested that this was aliens, which in turn spawned a viral internet response, okay, has since released a video saying he was only joking, okay? Not only that, but if you go to his TikTok profile, which you can find at sosa.pippin, his profile description, his profile bio says, "People crazy, I was dead ass trolling." In another video, he says, "Y'all need to stop worrying about these aliens and go get that bag." And I think by bag, he's talking about money there. I don't really know the lingo. But think about that, is that many people since have believed that he was silenced by an unofficial organization on behalf of hiding this alien event, this alien invasion, right? But if you watch his videos, he's clearly just messing around. Okay, and if you continue to watch his videos, he's clearly surprised by how seriously everyone took his trolling. Another theory I've seen is that if you take, and this is another, because I was sitting here scrolling and going through all the different things that happen, right? And another theory I've seen is that if you take the coordinates for the Bayside Marketplace, which is the Miami Mall, and if you flip them, if you invert them, you'll find that the inverted coordinates takes you to Antarctica, which many people then suggested was an indication of a connection between what happened in Miami and what the government is hiding. Okay, and I think that the speculation of this is probably based on the fact that large portions of Antarctica are restricted to the public. So there's always been a lot of different theories that swam around Antarctica. Even I have some personal theories about Antarctica. But if you actually take the coordinates of the Miami Mall, the Bayside Marketplace, and flip them and put those inverted coordinates into Google Maps, it takes you to the middle of the Indian Ocean. So much for that theory. My name is Justus. We're going to take a brief intermission and we'll be right back.
Are you ready?
You killed me. You You buried me. Right here. I can't be undone.
You're not real. You're a voice in my head.
Can you feel it? Your insanity.
I thought this would be different. I thought things would change, but they haven't.
I'm still just as guilty as I was before.
Are you ready?
Hello and welcome back. We're going to pick up right where we left off. Something I wanted to say is that the majority of what is circulating online is just speculation, grounded in no actual evidence, okay? The only evidence we have of a supposed alien encounter is an aerial helicopter view in which there are only a couple of frames that show a tall, shadowy presence, if you could call it that, okay? There was only one frame from that footage that looks remotely like what people are saying that it looks like, okay? Which more than likely means that it's a form of visual distortion or a trick of the eyes, okay? This could literally be a form of light distortion. It could be a police officer shining his light on something and reflecting in a certain way. I've seen light distorted to do some very interesting things and deceive people into thinking that they're seeing things that they're just not, okay? If you've ever heard of a mirage, you know, it's people who walk in the desert and they become very thirsty, and I've seen mirages just on driving down roads in general, just driving through hot desert roads, and you'll see what appears to be water way off in the distance, and then once you get there, there's no water there at all. I've seen these things personally, and that's a great example of how something can seemingly materialize out of nothing just with a play of light. But for people who respond that there was literally a viral movement of people who believe that they're seeing an alien in the footage and who are like, how dare you say it's just a trick of the eyes, like I know what I'm seeing, I invite you to research an epidemic referred to as mass psychogenic illness, okay, or MPI for short. A simpler, perhaps more offensive term for this is mass hysteria. But they changed the name of that because people didn't like the way that sounded. Before you get upset about me suggesting that this is just all a mass hysteria, it's more common than you think, okay? And I actually have evidence of that. On February 16th in 1990, a group of toll employees working at the Triborough Bridge complained of headaches, abdominal discomfort, dizziness, and throat and chest pain. Over the next few days, more and more workers began to, complain about experiencing these same symptoms, accompanied with a sweetness in the air, okay? These symptoms were reported when workers were inside or near a toll booth, but would subside once they left. Okay. Eventually, this got to be such a huge problem that superiors even sat with their employees at the toll booths. And on top of this, hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent attempting to find the cause of this outbreak. Okay. But in the end, no cause could be determined, and the mass illness just subsided with no explanation. It was then concluded that this outbreak was the result of an emotional contagion rather than an actual physical agent, okay? This isn't the only time that this has happened in history either. People have literally danced themselves to death because of mass psychogenic illness, or MPI. And if you don't believe me, just do your own research and you'll find it for yourself. In fact, entire school systems have been shut down because of outbreaks like these, okay? So it's not, with these things in mind and reviewing human history, it's not far-fetched. It's really not that far-fetched to believe that the Miami Mall aliens are simply the figment of a collective imagination. It's happened before, and it'll probably happen again. For those who will respond that the presence of many police officers is suspicious, well, it is a bit suspicious, but then again, police are always suspicious, okay? I lived in Florida for 4 years, and And the 2 times that I was pulled over, at least 2 other additional police cruisers would arrive at the scene and would remain present until the situation was sorted. Okay, the police have a lot of power, and they're also pretty paranoid about their safety. That's just something I've observed personally in many police officers. Okay, so seeing this many police vehicles lined up outside the Miami Mall doesn't surprise me. It reminds me. It reminds me of the police state that we live in. It reminds me how much power our government has and how little power we as civilians have in comparison. I think that instead of freaking out over the possibility of alien life, which has been a possibility since the 50s, okay, people should be freaking out over the fact that with one radio call, an entire city's police force can congregate in less than an hour, okay? That's scary. Because what if they were to congregate against something different, such as a peaceful protest? All it takes is one radio call to get an entire city's police force to one location. That kind of power is scary because that means that there's one individual at the top somewhere who can make that call and who can mobilize an entire city's police force with one call. That's insane. I think people are focusing on the wrong part of this footage. I actually saw one TikToker say, this is a distraction. This is just another distraction to keep us, looking away from what's actually going on. Now, I'm not going to say it's one way or the other. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it wasn't aliens. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it was aliens. But all of this being said, I feel like we're still focusing on the wrong part of this. I'm not discounting that alien life exists, okay? I believe there are too many habitable planets in our observable universe alone for us to be alone. We're not alone, okay? And there's much better footage to prove that than the Miami Mall aliens, okay? If you want to prove that aliens actually exist and there's a big cover-up to hide their existence from the public, you should be referring to people like Tucker Carlson, who was a news anchor and a news anchor for years and years and years, and then was outed by the establishment and is now an independent journalist talking about news on his own. If you want real evidence, of a government hideout, you should be referring to people like that. You should be referring to individuals who have actually worked within the government and are now acting as whistleblowers. And if you don't think that they exist, just do a little research because they do. They do exist. There are many whistleblowers out there right now who are talking about this whole alien thing, okay? These are the things that people shouldn't be investigating, okay? Not this. This is a viral trend. And I do believe, and I could be wrong about this. I'm not going to say that I'm right about this. I'm not going to say it's one way or the other. These are just the things that I'm observing based off of the research that I've done and based off of the things that I know and experience. These are not the videos that people should be investigating. Okay? If you really want to prove that alien life exists, then do real research. See, the minute that I started to research into the Miami Mall alien incident, I immediately began finding things that didn't add up. I'm finding people say that if you invert the coordinates for the Miami Mall, the Bayside Marketplace, then you invert those coordinates, it'll take you to Antarctica. So, the theory that spawns from that is that aliens accidentally, invert the coordinates and they show up the wrong place. And then, but then again, if you invert those actual coordinates and put them into Google Maps, it's going to take you to the Indian Ocean, where there's no land that is at least recorded and known to the public. Okay, and the airport's being closed. The minute I started looking into that, the whole situation at the airport was resolved by 6 p.m., 4.5 hours before this thing at the Miami Mall even took place. Okay, people are saying that it's ridiculous that the police were responding to just a couple of teenagers fighting. There were more than 50 teenagers fighting, and there's actually evidence. There's actually video evidence showing the damage that's causing. Okay. Instead of jumping on the next viral trend and being, oh yeah, that's what's going on, and believing it so wholeheartedly, do your own research. Look at it for yourself. I've watched that clip multiple different times. In fact, when that clip was first shared, I shared it to my ex account. Okay, because I thought it was very intriguing to see that many police cruisers in one spot at one time. But see, that was my takeaway. That was my big takeaway from it. What was yours? This has been the Justus Express, and I hope that you're thinking about my train of thought.